For the first time anywhere, this is the world premiere of the new Men at Work album, Cargo. Direct from Melbourne, Australia, Men at Work.
Where did the name Men at Work come from?
Well, we won it in a raffle, Bob.
Really?
No.
What was second prize?
Well, second prize. Oh, you got me there.
He took you up on that one, mate.
He did too. We sent away for it, actually.
It's on the back of a comic book. Said, you know,
Right in.
Send 15 cents and we'll send you the best band name that we've got.
Came off the street, actually. Came off the street. Men at Work signs are big in Australia, where guys stand around and have Men at Work signs, and there's 10 of them, and one of them works and 9 of them watch it.
That's right.
You have the equivalent here, but it's called Men Working, I think.
That's right.
Similar sort of thing happens everywhere in the world, you know, councils working on the roads.
Right. We like the idea of doing a job where one person worked and the rest just sort of did nothing.
Who is the one person that works? Is it Colin?
Oh, no, it's sort of by raffle, actually.
Yeah, it's a rostering system.
Yeah.
It depends.
Your turn tonight.
It depends when the boss comes round too, you know, whoever happens to be in the trench.
Tell me a little bit about how you guys got started. You came from, let's start with you, Colin. You came from Scotland.
Long time ago.
14 years old.
Yeah. 15 years I've been in Australia.
Grew up, your father had a music store?
Yeah.
Is that right? So that was the whole influence music?
Yeah, I
was
used to
your
hear
life?
all the hits before anyone else. So I was always pretty cocky because I went to school on Monday and had heard the hits and knew the words, you know, that kind of thing.
And then you went to Australia when you were 14.
Yeah.
Why? What was the reason that your family decided to move to Australia?
Well, my father wanted to go to Australia because he was sick of the weather.
And he was a criminal.
Wasn't it right? He embezzled the music store. No, he was worried about my chest, my wheezing problem.
When you were 14, were you already planning a career as far as music was concerned?
I wasn't really planning anything when I was 14. I was planning on, you know, sort of, you know, how to talk to that girl up the street.
Right. But you were playing instruments? Were you involved in music at that point?
I played guitar. I started to learn guitar in Scotland. That was before, you know, from this girl who I also was totally in love with. She was 16. She was a real woman.
Yeah.
And I was 12. And she taught me how to play my first chords on the guitar, Bob. And yeah, that's what happened. And came out to Australia and met a few guys that played. We used to play through the one amplifier. When I was 15, there was three guitars going in the one amplifier, and I really impressed them because I knew the chords to the House of the Rising Sun.
So how old were you when you met Ron Strykert?
I met Ron when I was getting on, 1977. I met Greg probably in 73, sort of probably around then.
I have a hard time seeing, with that powerful saxophone, and Who Can It Be Now, I have a hard time seeing you just, that's such a powerful sax. You play sax, you play flute, you play keyboards, you play...
Yeah, well, my sax actually has got a 2-stroke motor attached to it. That, it helps me out. It's got a small compressor that I use.
He's also got 3 lungs.
Really?
When I first met Greg, he didn't play any musical instruments at all, which was
How old were you then?
21 or something.
Yeah, I was 21.
But then I used to go and visit him, and he was always in the back room practicing. You little conscientious devil, you.
That's right. Well, I had nothing better to do. I was on the dole, and I used to borrow this. What, me?
On the dole,
I was on the dole, and I used to borrow this girl's flute that she had a flute that she didn't play, but she kept scrupulously clean, and I played it, but I never cleaned it at all. And you know, I used to play it after dinner and just put it straight back into the case again. So eventually,
did you really?
Yeah, she repossessed. She goes, "What's this?
What's this bit of scallop in there?"
That's right. There's these boogies all over it. So I was forced to buy a flute for myself. So I went on from there.
But you were 21 before you learned really to play an instrument?
Yeah.
Gee, and here, how old are you now, Greg?
29.
I mean, you weren't serious musicians up until a few years ago.
Well, still not that
serious. It sounds pretty serious. You just set a record for the longest period of time at #1 on the Billboard charts for a new group, which has stood for since 1966.
Since the Monkees.
Sounds pretty serious to me.
Yeah, in that sense it is. I mean, statistically speaking, just after high school, I met Jerry Spicer at university. Who's Jerry and drums and I met Russell Deppler, who's a manager who has been as well since the start. And I met Ron just after I left there, university, and we started working together just as an acoustic duo playing 12 strings, and that's when we wrote Down Under, actually. Down Under was about 5 years old.
Really that old?
Yeah. We used to play in little bars and have 80 or 100 people sort of singing along to it. Just occasionally they come along and get nostalgic and cry in their beer about how they were there when we used to play it, and why don't we play those places anymore?
But you weren't playing in high school at all, any of you?
Yeah, I was playing high school, but, you know, garage bands, high school bands, soul music. Jerry has played for years, since he was 14 or 15 bands. John has played. John's probably the most musically trained of the whole band. He did sort of 5 or 6 years at the conservatorium and has played all different kinds of music. He's a classically trained pianist.
He played piano since he was 5.
Okay, let's go through the group. That's what we should do. We're running all these names down. You do vocals.
Yeah, and play guitar.
And Greg, you play sax, flute, strings, keyboards.
Yeah. Greg does everything that none of the others do.
Anything that nobody else does.
If we've got a part or we've got an idea for something, we go, "What, you're not doing much there, are you, Greg?"
Sousaphone, mate, be great in there. Don't play the sousaphone.
Oh, we can buy one. Come on, you can do it.
So then who else is in the group besides the two of you? There are 5 of you, right?
Yes, 5 players and 1 manager. John Reese plays bass.
And John is really the most serious musician of all, you say. When I use the term serious, I mean...
That's tricky.
No.
Yeah, he'd be the most classically trained anyway, because he studied piano. He actually studied violin at the conservatorium. I think he did 5 years at the conservatorium playing violin, and I think bass was his last instrument. So he's also a multi-instrumentalist, and perhaps the most eccentric person in the band.
In what way?
Well, it's
eccentric.
Mad.
Yeah?
What more can I say?
Is that the reason they didn't ask him to come down today? Is that
well, actually, he's locked in at the moment.
Jerry's the anchor man, really, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he's very much
a perfectionist as a player. He's a traditionalist in his approach to his instrument, in that his dedication's there, and he's also very open, very sort of moves. He's not like doesn't stay in the one place, but he's great to have in terms of a drummer, because he still practices. You know, he lays it down all the time.
We'll go down there an hour before we're supposed to be there, so that he can
tune his
have
drums.
his drums all set up and everything.
Then there's
Ronno. He's the youngest in the band, and he plays guitar like no one else. He's
got a very spontaneous
it
sort of
just
style.
comes out.
Well, he plays lead and you play.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit. He plays more solos than I do. I mean, that's kind of, he dances his guitar playing very much. The guitar work very much complements each other, but we both play rhythmically, and it comes from, I think, we both play acoustics arguably better than electric.
So you do vocals. Who else does vocals with it?
Well, everybody sings.
Everybody does?
Yeah, I do like probably 80 or 90% of the lead vocals, but everyone throws in some harmony lines, and Greg probably does the most singing. Greg and I sing quite a lot together, and Ron sings, and John sings, Jerry sings. Everyone has little parts they sing.
Wasn't there a point where you were playing with
what
Ron?
Happened was I was playing with Ron acoustically. Jerry came down one day and said, "Look, you know, he was in a band we'd broken up, or a couple of them had gone to follow something else, and so Jerry came down, and we basically formed a three-piece thing, mainly writing songs. I had songs, and we had for about a week. It was like that. It was going to be hopeless, because I was going to have to play electric guitar, which I was very unused to. All the guitars. Ron played bass. Jerry played drums. Then we played at a hotel, and Greg. It was all in the space of a couple of weeks. Greg joined us, and then. We played together in this little place called the Grace Darling. We used to play for the Drunks, you know, the Grace Darling Hotel in Collingwood in Melbourne. And that was when we first played, and we just played for the Drunks there, and and food, mostly our friends. Yeah. and then and Greg came to the party, and then a lot of the songs we'd written were kind of written on 2 guitars really, and it wasn't quite sounding right. So Jerry said, I asked John to play bass. He was playing in a jazz band. John played a lot of jazz. And so Ron switched back to guitar, and it was 5-piece. And then Russell came down from living up the country, because he was figuring out what he was going to do, whether he was going to go into economics, and a big firm decided that really didn't want to do that, so he came down and started managing us, and it went away like that. That's sort of basically.
That was what. So then you were.
That was middle of '79.
Middle of '79.
Yeah, and we started just doing residency in a place called the Cricketers Arms on a Thursday night, which we did for a year.
Cricketers Arms. Tell me about the Cricketers Arms.
Cricketers Arms is a little hotel just near the major cricket field in Melbourne called the Melbourne Cricket Ground, the MCG, and it's a tiny little hotel that Colin and Ron used to play in as the acoustic duo. And when we got the band together, the owner of the pub, Joe Taylor, wanted the band. On good nights, it'd cram 150 to 200 people there. So it was really, you were very close to your audience. We certainly found out what worked and what didn't. I mean, there were drunks sort of leaning over us, going, "What, you guys play cocaine for us?" Or, and sort of, knocking the ash into the end of my saxophone and
falling into the drums.
That's right, falling into the drums and knocking things over. There was no stage. We were just sitting there right on their level, which is, in one way, it's quite confronting, and Colin has a little bit of trouble with his chest occasionally. I mean, I'd look over and Colin would be singing and there'd be some guy with a cigarette going, and his face would disappear into this cloud of smoke while he's trying to sing. So it was a trying time, but at the same time, it was a fantastic experience. And
being so close to the group, to the audience, you knew immediately whether it worked or not.
That's right, but when the whole front row turned green and it sort of went, we knew there was a problem with the song.
Really, no group, if you really analyze it, no group has been able to hit as many different countries, I mean, it's here in the United States, the black population, the white population,
that's really interesting.
Men, women, total mass appeal. Nobody's done that really since the Beatles.
The black stations are sort of playing us. I heard, when we were in New York, I heard black stations playing our song, which was...
Are you surprised?
Oh, that was just, it took me by surprise, you listen to some... It's kind of, and then you hear sort of our song come on. And so in France too, I mean, places like France, where you cross the language border, where you play music that obviously don't know what you're talking about, but it's sort of, we sold more copies of Who Could It Be Now in France than what we did in Australia.
Video has been a very important part of Men at Work, the videos in the US. Sure. Was that planned?
Well, they're fun.
It wasn't planned that they should be an important part, but we saw them as being a vehicle for expressing things about the songs and about ourselves that seemed to grow. It wasn't hard for us to do that first one, and after doing the first one, we were able to put a video together with all our ideas that really had something to do with the song. I mean, I think that's the success of the videos, is that they tie in with the lyrics. I mean, first of all, we're dealing with songs that have a story to them, but Colin's songs have got the storyline. It's very easy. We can sit down, and we can just think.
Simple,
stupid stories. But they're you can sit down and think of good sort of situations and things that you'd like to act out yourself. I mean, we've indulged ourselves terribly in those film clips.